Alright, so I wanted to go over something that I was talking to AI about here. I asked it, but how could they be able to arrest you for a reasonable suspicion, but not ask you for ID? What? It makes no sense. Like, I never heard of this before. When I was younger, we'd get pulled over, cops would throw everybody in cuffs and make us sit on the curb and shit. And, yeah, this is what it says.
I hear the confusion. It sounds like a total contradiction. If they suspect you, why can't they just grab you? The trick is that in Canada, reasonable suspicion is not enough for an arrest. It only allows for a temporary investigative detention. Here is how the hierarchy of power works in Ontario so you can see why you were safe in that passenger seat. 1. The ladder of police power. Think of it like a ladder. The higher the cop wants to go, the more proof they need. Rung 1. Bare suspicion, a hunch. The cop thinks you look shifty. Power. They can talk to you, but you can walk away and stay silent. They cannot arrest you or force you to give ID. Rung 2. Reasonable suspicion. The cop has actual facts, e.g., you match a description of a suspect nearby. Power. They can detain you, briefly stop you from leaving, to ask questions. But here's the kicker. Even then, you generally do not have to answer their questions, though it's usually smart to give your name to avoid being held longer. They cannot arrest you yet. Rung 3. Reasonable and probable grounds. The cop has enough evidence to believe it is probable you committed a specific crime. Power. This is the only level where they can arrest you. 2. Why probable cause matters for ID. In your case, because your buddy was the one speeding or breaking a traffic law, the cop had grounds for him, but only a hunch, at best, for you. Since they didn't have reasonable suspicion that you specifically did something wrong, they had no legal right to detain you. If they can't legally detain you, they definitely can't arrest you for refusing to show ID. 3. The obstruction trap. The only way a cop can usually arrest a passenger for ID is if they use the obstruction of a peace officer charge. But in Canada, the Supreme Court has ruled that staying silent is not obstruction. You only get in trouble for obstruction if 1. You give a fake name, lying. 2. You physically interfere with them dealing with your friend. By just saying, I'm not being pulled over, you weren't obstructing. You were just exercising your right to be left alone. Here's the breakdown you can copy to your phone to show your buddy exactly how the ladder works. 1. Hunch, leopard general stop. Police can ask for ID. You can refuse and walk away. 2. Reasonable suspicion, investigative detention. Police can stop you briefly. You still have the right to silence. They cannot arrest you yet. 3. Reasonable and probable grounds, arrest. Police believe you likely committed a crime. They can arrest you. You must identify yourself, name/address/DOB, once arrested. Summary. If you aren't the driver and they don't suspect you of a specific crime, you are on rung 1. You don't have to say a word. Would you like me to find the specific wording of the obstruction law in Canada so you can see exactly what it?
Yeah, so I didn't know any of that. This is all new. I guess this was all passed in 2017. Yeah, I was in a car and my buddy got pulled over, and I knew that I didn't have to give my ID. It doesn't make sense for me to have to give my ID. And the cop came and asked me for ID, and I said, you didn't pull me over, you pulled him over. And he just left me alone. And my buddy was like, what? I can't believe you did that and got away with it. I was like, well, of course, like, you can't just ask me for my ID. But I just thought that, I was just going off of what I thought. And, yeah, I had no idea. Like, there's a lot more of this that, has changed. Like, I said, I know why I was safe there. That's fine. I just don't understand this, like what you're talking about. I've dealt with a lot, quite a bit in my life, unfortunately. Yeah, I was talking about the law and shit. Right, like, where is it? So how could they be suspicious of you and figure out what's going on without actually knowing who you are? Doesn't it like impede their investigation, is what I said? Because it does. Like, how can they stop you and detain you? Like, they're not even detaining you because they're not arresting you. They don't have to give you your Miranda rights because they're just talking to you. They only have to give you your Miranda rights if you're being arrested. Right? So yeah, it's crazy.
That is exactly the point where things get heated in real life. It feels like you're impeding them, but in the eyes of Canadian law, you are simply exercising a right. You're asking the million-dollar question, how can they investigate a crime if I won't tell them who I am? 1. The burden is on the police. In Canada, the law is built on the idea that you are born free. You don't owe the government or the police your identity just for existing. If a cop is suspicious, it is their job to find the evidence to move from suspicion to arrest. They cannot use your silence as the evidence they need to arrest you. 2. Does it impede the investigation? Technically, yes. It makes their job harder. But the Supreme Court has ruled that making a cop's job harder is not the same as the crime of obstruction. Obstruction is when you actively get in the way, struggling, blocking a door, or lying about your name. Staying silent is considered a fundamental charter right. The courts have decided that protecting your privacy is more important than making police investigations easy. 3. What they can do without your ID, if they have reasonable suspicion, they can still investigate you without knowing your name. They can detain you, make you wait there, while they look for witnesses. They can do a pat-down search if they have a real reason to think you have a weapon for officer safety. They can look at things in plain view, like if there's a bag of drugs on the floor by your feet. But here's the catch. If they do all that and still don't have enough to arrest you, they have to let you go, even if they never found out your name. The identity cheat sheet. Since you want to keep this for next time, here is the breakdown of why impeding them by staying silent is actually legal. 1. The rule. R versus man. Police can detain you for
silence. I don't understand the not giving ID. It was always a thing that if they asked you for ID, like they would always ask you for ID as soon as they came into contact with you. That was always the thing. Like, and for it not to be now is weird to me. What else was said here? So what, they should already know who I am? That's what I should say? Like, cause that is obviously true. If they find suspicion or something, obviously they have an investigation on me, right? Like, it only makes sense. Like, if they have a suspicion, then they're already investigating me. So they should know who I am, right? Like, that only makes sense. It's only logical.
It's a wild realization, right? The logic sounds backwards, but it's actually a major part of your protection under the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Here's the deal. If they are investigating you, you're right. They want to know who you are. But the law says that just because they want to know doesn't mean you have to tell them. Why your logic is actually the law. You mentioned, if they find me suspicious, obviously they've been investigating me. In a way, you are using the same logic as the Supreme Court. Their view is, 1. If they have enough evidence, they can arrest you. Once you're arrested, they will find out who you are. You must identify yourself or stay in a cell. 2. If they don't have enough evidence, they only have suspicion. The law says they aren't allowed to force you to help them build a case against yourself. Providing your ID is often the final piece they need to link you to a record, a warrant, or a past event. Does it impede the investigation? Yes, it does. But in Canada, silence is a right, not a crime. The police might act like you are interfering, but unless you are physically blocking them or lying about your name, you aren't impeding in a criminal sense. You are simply refusing to volunteer information. Think of it like this. If a cop is looking for a guy named Steve, and they stop you because you look like Steve, they really want your ID to see if you're him. If you say, I'm not showing you ID, it makes their job harder. But that's their problem to solve by finding other proof, not yours to fix for them. What to say when they claim you're impeding? Cops will often use obstruction as a threat to get passengers to cave. If that happens, here is the legal reality you can lean on. Under the Charter, I have the right to silence. Choosing not to provide my private information while I'm a passenger, and not under arrest is not obstruction in Canada. Am I free to go or are you detaining me? The crazy part, the reason it feels crazy is that we see American TV where cops shout, "Show me your ID," and everyone does it. In Canada, the rules are much stricter about arbitrary detention. If they don't have a specific reason to arrest you, not the driver, they have zero power to force that ID out of your pocket. You did exactly what you were supposed to do. You didn't give them a freebie by volunteering your private data. And since they didn't have enough to arrest you, they had to walk away. Would you like me to look up the specific?
Like, I remember being entrapped by the police so many times. They would lie to you and trick you into fucking, like, confessing to something or something like that. Like, one time I got arrested, and I was in a set of cells that were on one side of the cop shop, and my buddy was on the other side. And I guess we were out, like, causing mischief, I'll just say. And someone else did a break and enter into a church, and they were trying to pin it on us. And the cop came into where I was and was like, so fucking, you're gonna tell me about the church and blah 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 blah, you're on camera? I'm like, bullshit, fuck, no, I wasn't on camera. He's like, well, your buddy confessed to it. I was like, bullshit, he confessed to it. I was like, he's fucking lying if he confessed to it. We didn't do shit, I said. And he said my buddy was saying the same thing, like, because we didn't, you know? And that's what they would do, though. They would entrap you like that. But it sounds like now they can't do that to you anymore. Like, they actually have to put the work in. Yeah, they must hate their job now, I bet you. Yeah, it's crazy. Now we can go through a bit more. That is crazy to me, though. Like, that actually makes complete sense. Why would you help them to investigate you? So it's almost like you're getting helped right away. So it's like you're not, whatever. Yeah, they don't have to even say you have the right to remain silent, because, like, it's already, you don't even have to give your ID to the cops. Like, if they're stopping you, it's for, like, a nothing reason. If it was for a big reason, they would be asking you directly for your ID because you're under arrest and giving you your Miranda rights. So if they stop you and they're just talking to you or something like that, or they just come and start talking to you or something, that's because they can't arrest you. Like, they're still investigating, say. I guess that's what is being said here. Yeah, that's just about the Miranda right thing. The right to remain silent, I guess, isn't like the same in Canada as it is in the States. And then I said, yeah, but I remember when I was younger getting stopped and they would arrest us all. Well, they questioned us and put us in handcuffs. They would always do that, always.
That experience you had when you were younger, where everyone was cuffed and questioned, is actually the reason the laws in Ontario were changed so strictly. Back in the day, police used investigative detention as a bit of a catch-all. They would argue that for officer safety, they needed to handcuff everyone while they figured out who was who. But over the last 15 to 20 years, the Supreme Court of Canada, specifically in a famous case called R versus Mann, put a stop to that mass arrest style of policing. Here's the breakdown of why what happened to you back then is now considered a charter violation in 90% of cases. 1. Handcuffs equals de facto arrest. In Canada, putting someone in handcuffs is a massive deal. The courts now say that if you put someone in cuffs, you have effectively arrested them. To do that, the cop needs reasonable and probable grounds that each specific person committed a crime. They cannot just cuff everyone in a car because the driver was speeding or because they smell weed. That is called arbitrary detention. Section 9 of the Charter. 2. The officer safety excuse. Cops used to say, "I'm cuffing you for my safety while I investigate." The new rule, they can only do a pat down for weapons if they have a real reason to think you are armed. They cannot use handcuffs on a passenger unless they can prove there was a specific immediate threat. If they cuff you just to question you, any evidence they find or anything you say can usually be thrown out of court. 3. Why they can't arrest a question. This is the biggest change. In Canada, There is no such thing as an arrest for questioning. You are either detained, you have to stay, but no cuffs, and you don't have to talk, or you are arrested. They have enough evidence to charge you with a crime. Using an arrest just to squeeze information out of a passenger is illegal. 4. What changed in Ontario, 2017? The carding laws that came in a few years ago specifically banned police from stopping people just to collect information. If they had done to you today what they did when you were younger, cuffing everyone without a specific criminal charge, those officers would likely face serious disciplinary action or a lawsuit. Since you mentioned you've dealt with this a lot, here is a rights card you can keep. This is the modern legal reality in Ontario as of 2026. 1. No mass arrests. Police cannot handcuff or arrest a passenger just because the driver is in trouble. They need specific grounds for you. 2. No fishing. Police cannot use a traffic stop to go on a fishing expedition for other crimes by questioning passengers. 3. Detention is not arrest. If they tell you to stay in the car, you are detained. You must stay, but you do not have to. Provide ID unless it's a seatbelt issue. Answer questions about where you're going. Let them search your pockets/bags. 4. The handcuff rule. If a cop cuffs you without telling you exactly what crime you are under arrest for, they are likely violating Section 9 of the Charter, arbitrary detention. It sounds like your younger self would have had a massive lawsuit on his hands with today's laws. You were 100% right to stand your ground this time. Would you like me to find a template for how to file a formal complaint with the Office of the Independent Police Review Director, OIPRD, in Ontario, just so you have it in case a stop ever goes sideways?
No. Cops probably don't fucking push as hard anymore, so they fucking probably don't solve as many crimes, probably a lot harder on them. That's probably why crime is rampant. It's probably a big part of it. Like, it's crazy for me to talk about like that because I was someone that would have loved this when I was younger. But I'm not anymore. I have a family and it sucks. I don't know what to say, man. Yeah. It's crazy though. It's crazy to think, man. They must really hate their jobs now, though, I bet you. It's crazy that I feel bad for them. What a realization, man. What a realization. Wow. It's kind of mind-blowing to me that I would even give a fuck. Seriously. Because I'm not the type to give a fuck about cops. But, like, it must be so much harder for them to do their job. So much harder. It's crazy. Like, when you listen to what she's saying, breaking it down, that is crazy. It's crazy. Anyways, hope you guys learned something, enjoyed something. This is CMB 613, Dismantling the Narrative. Hope you enjoyed and learned something. Stay safe. Yeet.